Hey guys, welcome to Series World. Today I'm going to explain an erotic thriller series called Dark Desire from 2020. Turn on subtitles and spoilers ahead. The third episode starts with Esteban having flashbacks of making love with Brenda in the same tub where she was discovered dead. While they are being intimate, Brenda informs Esteban that she plans to end her marriage, prompting Esteban to question her reasoning. He declines Brenda's suggestion and informs her that they are not something, and certainly not in love. The flashback concludes, and the officer explains to Esteban who discovered Brenda and the findings from the investigation. He goes on to clarify that Brenda slashed the vein in her right arm and used a man's belt as a tourniquet. Esteban inquires if the belt was her ex-husband's, but the officer responds that it's unlikely since they parted ways months ago and none of his clothing remains. He informs Esteban about the evidence gathered, including 2 fingerprints not belonging to the house cleaner or victim, as well as 2 condoms found at the scene. He then declares that they need to identify these people quickly. Esteban then responds that he needs to examine her body and the proof. The situation shifts, and Zoe and her father are shown talking about Brenda's passing. Zoe is struggling to understand the reason behind Brenda's death. Leonardo informs her that they are still investigating the cause of her death and have not discovered a suicide note. Zoe is shown to be worried about her mother and questions why Alma didn't realize that Brenda could take her own life despite spending a week together. Leonardo then warns her to be careful with Alma and to avoid asking her any unnecessary questions. Alma walks into the room and inquires about the topic of conversation. Zoe consoles Alma by informing her about Brenda's situation and offering her support. Leonardo inquires whether she has discussed with Brenda's family the timing of her burial. She responds that the issue will be resolved once the investigation is complete and her body is released. Alma questions Zoe about why Karina didn't spend the night there, but Zoe avoids answering and heads off to school. Leonardo recommends Alma to rest from work today, but she refuses. Once more, he attempts to persuade her to join him for breakfast outdoors and to have a serious conversation about their relationship. Alma once more declines his advances, stating that the timing is not right. The current focus of the story is on Zoe, who is on the school campus being confronted by Karina. Karina is questioning Zoe about why she is avoiding her after their kiss last night. Karina reassures her that they can still be friends despite sharing a kiss and she doesn't have to like it. Zoe then clarifies that it isn't true, which gives Karina hope that perhaps she did enjoy it. Zoe continues to show a lack of interest in having this conversation and leaves reluctantly. At the same time, Alma educates her students on gender-based violence against women, highlighting how investigations tend to prioritize understanding the reasons behind the abuse rather than supporting the victim. They are being accused of inciting the abuser and criticized for being prostitutes, promiscuous, or for their choice of clothing. Then Darío raises his hand and inquires Alma about her article, in which she discusses a case where a rapist blamed his 1-year-old victim for provoking him, and questions her thoughts on the matter. Alma responds that on occasion, abusers perceive themselves to be the victims due to their circumstances. Once Alma finishes her class, Darío is observed texting as he exits the class. Following everyone's departure, Alma receives a text from Darío, and on her way out, she inquires about how he obtained her number. He responds that he found it on her Facebook profile, and that's not relevant at the moment, questioning why she appears upset. Alma informs him of Brenda's passing. The focus shifts back to Edith, who hands Leonardo a file and gets inquired about whether she has contacted his brother. Edith responds in the affirmative and informs him that he is in Cuernavaca for law enforcement matters linked to a friend's passing. Leonardo is puzzled because Cuernavaca is the city where Brenda resided. Afterward, Alma informs Darío of the final message Brenda gave her, which is to look at her Facebook for entertaining updates on her activities. Alma also feels sorry for not joining the cruise Brenda organized for them and holds herself responsible for not seeing it coming, even though they had been friends for 30 years. Darío reassures her that despite his age, he understands her emotions. Alma tries to go away, but Darío advises her to stay since she is trembling. The story returns to Esteban finding Brenda's lifeless body. The officer informs him that based on the evidence, this is either a suicide or a brilliant crime. The scene shifts to Darío telling his employee to come up with a tragic family backstory in the garage before sending him home for the afternoon. Meanwhile, Alma waits for Darío in his office. When Darío returns, he tells Alma that her tire is being fixed. Alma questions why a lawyer operates a garage, to which Darío explains he inherited it from his late father. Alma expresses sympathy, but Darío reassures her that the grief does fade. Alma apologizes for her harsh behavior towards Darío the past few days, except for the day they met. Darío doesn't take it to heart, sharing that meeting her brought purpose to his life. Alma, feeling guilty, tells him that despite her decision not to pursue a relationship, she finds herself in Dario's office opening up to him. After that, Dario's employee comes into the office and informs him that he must go due to a family emergency. The scene changes to Esteban and the officer, who are still investigating Brenda's house. The officer informs Esteban that they have found Brenda's ex-husband, who currently lives in Spain with his new wife. He also informs that Brenda and her husband were separated for 3 months, and Brenda received the papers a few days before her death. Esteban wants to see the evidence again. The officer agrees, but reminds him that he has to remember that alcohol and a passionate encounter were involved in her murder. The officer then pulls out Brenda's phone and tells Esteban that her phone received a voice message yesterday, which they have to investigate. Leonardo is seen again going to Alma's workplace to give her flowers to fix things up, but her assistant, Nancy, notifies him that Alma had left a while ago and also ensures him that getting flowers will definitely make her happy. Meanwhile, Alma is looking at Darío as he is working on her car. After the work is done, Darío enters the car where Alma is waiting and starts getting intimate with her. Soon, Alma and Darío move to his office and start making out there while Leonardo is seen leaving a voice message on Alma's phone. The story progresses as the lead investigating officer criticizes Brenda for being attracted to young men and leading a promiscuous life. The lady officer tells him to stop judging the victim and focus on finding the crime suspects. The officer dismisses Officer Garcia's input and questions if she found party footage from that night. She responds that the party footage is damaged, but they have footage from the condo. Upon hearing this, the male officer jokes about wanting to see Brenda's last lover. The scene shifts to Alma and Darío lying naked on his bed. Alma confesses to feeling guilty, stating she has never cheated on her husband, especially not with someone so young. Darío advises her not to feel guilty, as he is not there to judge her. Alma discovers that Darío stalked her Facebook profile and knows a lot about her. As it gets late, Alma decides to leave. Before departing, Alma informs Darío that despite liking him, their relationship cannot continue as she is a married woman. Darío reassures her not to feel guilty and to think of it as fulfilling their desires. Alma then requests that their encounter remain a secret, to which Darío agrees. The scene changes as Alma comes home and goes to Zoe's room to ask her about Leonardo. Zoe gets upset as Alma suddenly enters her room without knocking on the door. Zoe then informs Alma that Leonardo had come earlier, looking for her but couldn't find her, so he left. Zoe then asks Alma if she is okay and if she wants to talk about it. Alma assures her that she is fine and will talk about it tomorrow. Zoe then hugs and comforts her mom, ensuring her that she is always there for her. Alma leaves, and we see Zoe smiling at her laptop as a stranger is flirting with her through Facebook messages. After leaving Zoe's room, Alma walks around the house and finds a jewelry store receipt in Leonardo's documents. The story shifts to Leonardo as he asks Esteban why he went to Cuernavaca and if Alma told him to go there. Esteban says no, and further adds that his friend, the lead investigating officer Vallejo, called him because he has doubts about Brenda's death. Esteban tells him that even though the death is most probably suicide, he wanted to make sure. Leonardo gets confused and asks why he has so much interest in this case. Esteban tells Leonardo that he was Brenda's lover. The story then goes back to Alma, who is seen coming out of the shower and looking at a photo of Brenda and her. She imagines herself being there while Brenda committed suicide and tells her to stop, or at least tell her why she is doing this. She begs Brenda to not leave her like this. Leonardo appears again, drinking wine and calling Alma while she sleeps. As Alma doesn't respond, he turns off the light and leaves. The scene cuts to Darío, who is talking to an elderly lady in an old age home about why she isn't eating. It is then revealed that this person is Dario's mom, even though she refuses to eat. Darío tells her she has to live and tries to feed her. The scene changes again, and now it's morning. Zoe seems upset with the housekeeper as she can't find her green jacket. Alma tells her that maybe Zoe left it at school and asks about her dad. Zoe replies that if Alma didn't see Leonardo, how could she see him? The doorbell rings, and Zoe answers to see who it is. Esteban enters as she opens the door. Alma greets Esteban and asks if it's about Brenda. Leonardo tells her that it is and shows her the voice message she sent to Brenda that night. He then tells Alma that she has to clear this up and adds that Brenda had a men's belt as a tourniquet on her arm. Alma has flashbacks of pulling Dario's belt off his pants and leaving it in the room, but still denies that the voice message has anything to do with what happened. However, Esteban requests her cooperation, as they have also found 2 used condoms with semen samples. He asks her to tell him who was with Brenda that night. The episode ends with Alma telling Esteban that the condoms were not from Brenda doing something that night, but from her being intimate with Darío. To watch more explanations of these kinds of series, click on the videos on your screen. And don't forget to let me know how you feel about today's video in the comments down below. And at last, thanks for watching.